when you're hunting, like during the rut, there's a thing about putting time in, and there's a thing about putting
Quality.
a quality time in when you're effective. I learned this even up in Alberta when I was hunting with Jim Hole. He wouldn't put anybody in all day sits because he said you can't be alert that whole
Yeah.
time in that cold, really cold weather. Now I'm a fan of all day sits, but what you articulated about was like, okay, maybe I can do 3 to 4 hard days in a row, and I need maybe just a morning to sleep in break or something that recharges those batteries a little bit because you're down at the low battery
Yeah.
mark and you're moving a little slower, you're not as alert, and you can miss opportunities or mess up opportunities based on that. So, for example, like if you were to go in and spend 3 hours at 9, 10 o'clock at night going and checking these cameras, maybe that next morning you sleep in a little bit and catch up on some rest and then get full bore into it. But you have that fresh intel. Is that kind of what you'll do, those types of things?
Yeah, or I know in the past it was going to a different state, and that was my drive to another area that I got to reach. And then when you get there, you're pulling cameras, so it's like not usually at night or the next morning, and you just want to see a little bit. So then it was like, I got a fresh start, a new place, and I had time. But yeah, what I explained in there is like volume and intensity kind of go hand in hand, where you can't have intensity at a large quantity. It just takes a lot out of you when you're hunting to get into your spot and not mess up. Get up early, make sure your scent's right, make sure you put your stand up right, make sure the winds, it takes a lot. And then we talk about hunting near a creek to where you have to be, a deer will sneak up on you, going to be like the whole day. It's not, you're on alert. And sometimes I get into a place where I need crunchy leaves so I can just hear them coming. I can kind of relax a little bit, but to be intense and on your A game, and when you're hunting these tough mountain deer, you'll get run down trying to, like, I feel like you got to do everything because they don't take chances with their life, man. They that's how they're survivors, and they have a lot in their favor, and they don't take chances. So to capitalize on them, you have to be in a right spot, get the wind right, be ready, be alert. And it might be getting in before light, staying late, just all these things that take a toll on you mentally and physically. And that's why I like the challenge of hunting these public land or mountain bucks. It's both mentally and physically. It's really a great challenge, and people that are good at it are tough and work hard. You got to work hard, have a good work ethic, and it's the qualities that I feel like I have, and I can associate to other people that are in the same boat, you know what I mean, and doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So,
No, you're spot on, and the volume intensity thing. I mean, that comes the same thing with training your body, like working out and stuff. Like my trainer Todd Baumgardner, Human Predator Pack Mule. I've had him on the podcast before. He talks about that a lot. He's like, you can do these, workout programs that are intense, and your body kind of shuts down. You start getting injured, and you start having problems.
yeah, you're right.
And he's like, building that, volume up and having that intensity when you need it, but like knowing when your body needs to recover and make sure you get that good amount of recovery to be able to continually build and do better with it. And I think that translates over to hunting quite a bit. And, I feel like a lot, like I've done it where I've done 7-8 days straight of all day sits and going super hard. And honestly, I feel like my effectiveness is so low at those times. I found my sweet spot is that 3 to 4 day window that I can do that, and I need a couple days. Sometimes it might not be that long. And if you're on like an out of state trip, I'm not going to take 2 days off to do that. But if I'm, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
but
I know what you mean.
If I'm hunting in Pennsylvania and I'm going to pick the best days, I'm going to look at Spartan Forage prediction, I'm going to look at the weather, I'm going to do that. I'm going to hunt a good 3 days, and I need to catch up on some work. I might do that the next couple days and then go back out and hunt again. If you're using vacation time to do that in your home state, when you're on an out-of-state trip, a little different. You have a little bit more condensed time. You need to make the most of it, but you can still find those recharge areas that just might not be as long, to be able to do that. Or maybe recharging even means just not sitting in a tree. It just means
Yeah.
scouting a different spot.
Yeah, and I like I say when you say about the working out, grow while you rest. Kind of the same applies to this. Recharge and grow, recharge your batteries while you're resting. And sometimes for me, it's just a mental thing to where instead of getting up at 4 a.m., I'll get up at 7, and it's daylight, and it's a mental like I get mad at myself. You should be in it, and it like work something in my brain, like kind of get mad at me. You should have been out, and it's like sometimes, all right, now I'm going. I got to go. It's something like that. Just
Yeah.
work with your brain a little bit, kind of trick it a little bit, and it might not be like you said. I'm more taking 4 days off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not that. It's just something what works for you, whether it's sleeping in or we're coming out. Okay, I'll hunt the morning. I'm gonna come out and take a nap or like you get into a rut. A lot of the times, the good time of the day is 10 to 2. All right, well I'm just gonna sleep in and hunt 10 to 2. Sometimes it's just that helps you. So yeah, that's really important. Then you start making mistakes when you're going and pushing yourself.
Yeah, no, it definitely is, and and going back like on the scouting side of things, and when you're doing that, I mean, I think that volume comes down to the scouting portion, like putting as much time as you can scouting versus the actual hunting, and I feel like you'll have better hunts when you're putting in that scouting time, and also, something that I know all of us do. All of us scout and hunt differently that we're at this camp.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that we all do is when we find particular sign, and that sign doesn't need to be the biggest scrape. It doesn't need to be the biggest rub. Whatever it is that trips our trigger, that's like, okay, this is good. It might even be this little cover, this small, little transition where it goes from really steep, a small little bench that comes out, a little knob or something. Wherever we find a spot that we want to hunt or sign that like gives us that thing that feels good, we spend a bunch of time sitting there looking at it, walking around it, looking at it from different perspectives and trying to understand the why behind it and what's going on. And that's where you're like just taking that time instead of like trying to cover the most ground when you're scouting, is like spending quality time in some of
in
those
certain
places
areas
that matter.
Mm-hmm.
Moving quickly through areas that don't matter
and slow down
and
when you get to that
and slow
and
down.
really dissect an area. That's really important.
It'll take me, if I find a spot that I think I want to set up, sometimes it takes me 30 to 60 minutes to pick a tree.
Oh yeah.
30 to now when you're like running gunning and you find stuff, you don't really have that amount of time like during the hunting season or focusing it, but like right now in the spring, that's a perfect time to spend as much time as you possibly can figuring that out, because there's so many scenarios. It's super difficult to make that decision on the fly or just be like, I know for me, I've always been like, I'd scout, and I'd be running, I'd find good sign, I'd mark it, make a waypoint, and I go, and then I get home and I'm like, I never picked a tree.
Yeah, you don't pick a tree or like I should, and then I'll replay it visually in my head what I saw. I'm like, I should have went up on that next little spot to check that, or I should have dropped down. I should have, and maybe he's, going around that point, or I should have checked this, and yeah, definitely stay in that zone, in that area, and really dissect it and know, like I almost want to have a visual picture, and when there's blank spots in there, I don't like that. Like,
No.
even though I got my maps and that, I want to visually run myself through that area I was and know, okay, he could be up there, up the hill near that point or this and that. And like, I know what's all there to help me, because I slowed down and I took it all in, and help myself find.
Yeah.